Hello and welcome to Global Morning, a beautiful Saturday. As you always look forward to, here we are. And of course, we have a lot of amazing things to dish out to you this beautiful Saturday. I hope you're relaxed at home in front of your screen. Just cross your legs if you're done with the home chores, because there's a whole lot to talk about that's happening in Nigeria and across the world that you need to be informed about. I am Anita Patrick, and I won't be doing this alone because I have my co-host with me who's looking similar like me. If you see him, you understand what I mean by similar, because trust me, we have somewhere we're taking you to and you need to come along. Hello Mukhtar, it's good to have you join us.
It's a beautiful morning, Anieti, and like you said, we're twinning. It's a beautiful Saturday.
I'm telling
and
you.
A lot of things are happening in Nigeria and across the world.
Yeah.
And we'll bring it to our audience. Today happens to be the International Day of Education.
I'm telling
that
you.
conversation
You need
will
to be
come
educated.
up. Of course, we would have a conversation around that. And of course, labor issues, trending issues, basically.
Yeah.
We'll bring that to our audience. And you're looking ravishing, obviously, as always.
We have plans, you've forgotten.
We're not going to intimate them about our plans. We keep it on the wraps at the moment.
But we're done as we're leaving, and you just come
we'll give you the
with
details.
It's good to have you with us on Global Morning, and of course, like we said, there's a whole lot for you to catch up with us. But quickly, we'll take our paper review segments, where we have major stories in front of the cover pages of our dailies. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Like I said, it's Newspaper Review segment. Let's quickly tell you stories making the headlines. We have our dailies in front of us. We have the Nigerian Tribune. We have the Daily Independent, the Sun, the Punch, and all of the likes lined up for us. But let's quickly take our first paper for the day, which is the Saturday Tribune newspaper, and it has its major bold headlines written there. It says, bandits attacking Christians to provoke anger. Northern Can chairman speaking there, and that story is on page 3, and then you have the president's picture there, and I'm wondering what that has to do. Could it be as the FG, or what else, or passing the message across?
Well, I think generally speaking, this headline is one that I think I agree with, because most times when these people attack people based on religious lines, the intention for them is to divide the nation, because they see that Nigeria is a nation that is working towards statehood and nationhood by being one. So when they do these attacks, they try to divide people, but the people have already seen beyond their rhetorics and beyond their schemics. So the Nigerian people have known that regardless of whatever, we would try to be one people, indivisible, regardless of whatever divide they try to bring to Nigeria.
But that should be what should stand, because we know we are a united nation. We don't believe in all the sentiments. We just want peace and safe haven for every Nigerian who's there. And then please, a copy of the paper will guide us through to get the details of why did I say
above
that.
the nameplate, you see a headline that says, Olubadan visits Tinubu, tax president on insecurity, food crisis, with details on page 6 of the Saturday Tribune newspaper.
That's also linking with the issue of insecurity there, talking about the issues of attacks and that. So let's move away from that. We have, just beside that, we have the court halts PDP case pending appeal court decision. That story is on page 4, talking about politics ahead of the house of different political parties getting their acts together.
Yes, because 2027 is already by the corner, and we've seen APC is quite formidable, even though every party has their challenges, but APC is seeming very, very formidable. So other parties are trying to get their house in order so they can put up a strong challenge as against 2027.
Opposition party.
Exactly.
Okay,
and
so
let's move away from that story. Just below the mass story is we see a very interesting political story that says Kano governor resigns from NNPP, says defection. Our decision is to protect kennel people, with details on page 4 of the Saturday Tribune newspaper.
Well, that's one story that has actually been all over the papers.
Certainly.
What we'll see. We'll also bring that up to you as well because it has more. Let's also move away from that and tell you what Makinde has to do. Makinde says resurgent PDP will shock cynics in 2027, and that story is on page 30 of the Saturday Tribune paper. Well, a lot's coming up for 2027.
Yes.
let's look.
I think the Tribune is talking about a lot of politics because just below that story, you see another story that says court adjourns Rivers impeachment suit indefinitely, with details on page 4. We know that has been in the news for a long time.
Yes,
and this is another dimension we are seeing to that saga.
Rivers has always been in the papers and a lot in the news as well. Then we have, away from that, we have protest rocks Ijebu-Ode over alleged plan to impose next Awujele. That story is on page 7. That talks about monarchy stuff.
Yes, that has been going on also for a long time.
Yeah.
The entire week basically has had that story in the headlines.
I watch all papers.
We just hope it comes to a conclusive end, basically.
It should come. And then we have there below that, we have my husband slept with her lovers in our bed, broke my nose for complaining, Ibadan woman tells court. That's away from politics, totally different. This is a whole good story. But that's the much we can take quickly there with the Saturday Tribune paper. Let's quickly move our focus to the other paper in our lineup for the day. And quickly, we have our next paper, the Saturday Vanguard. Saturday Vanguard has its own story leading boldly. They are still talking about insecurities and issues around
yes, it says killings, abductions, soar after United States airstrike, with a rider that says terrorists kill 183, abduct 366 in 27 days. A second rider says Nigeria begs United States to sustain its attack on terrorists. The third rider says one airstrike not enough to end insurgency, with details on page 9 of the Saturday Vanguard newspaper.
Well, like I said, that has to do a lot with the insecurity issues and how this can be looked into. But let's move above that. We have the story there that says why you can, that's talking about entertainment, why you can't compare Wizkid with Fela. Q Amateur speaking there, and you have feud between Seun Kuti, Wizkid over Fela's legacy gets messy. There's a whole lot happening there, that particular music circle there.
Honestly, that story has been going for far too long. But I think they're all legends in their own right. There are no reasons for comparisons.
Yes, everyone is unique in his own way.
Exactly.
And they have their own talents and skill to display. And people have what they love about each of them and always want to listen to their genre of music.
Exactly. So if you're a Fela fan, he's a legend. If you're a Wizkid fan, he's also a legend in his own right. So there's no need to trade blames or trade arguments back and forth.
People just like interesting conversation.
You know how we going. Of course, that's how we are here.
So still talking about politics, we still have that story about the Governor Yusuf finally joins APC, moves with 21 state lawmakers, 8 House of Rep members, 44 local government chairman. That story is on page 3, and we give you that also above. Let's see just below that story.
Away from politics, a bit of health. It says blindness epidemic from glaucoma looms as cases surge, with details on page 11. That's not a good one, but we hope people are able to take care of their eyes so as not to go blind. So away from that, just now let's look at below the mass headline. There's a story here that says Tinubu's economic policies yielding dividends. That's according to Senator Arise, with a rider that says Peter Obi remains ruling party's target. Details of this story are on page 3 and page 12 of the Saturday Vanguard newspaper.
So this is an interesting story that I'm looking at. I'm just smiling at myself. And that story is a picture story there where, you know, the NAFDAC had talked about the ban of the sachet alcohol. And here we have protesters. NLC distillers in Lagos protest sachet drinks banned. And I was having this conversation with someone. I was like, how is this going to play out? Because one thing we need to look at is the implementation of this particular policy.
This is not the first time, Anita, that this ban has come up. I remember previous years, a year or two previously, they had come out with this particular ban, but I don't know how it did not get the right implementation. Like you just said, implementation is a very big factor. But these people that are protesting, I would like to go and pick up a copy to find out why they are protesting. Because NAFDAC has said the reason why we're banning this is for safety concerns. We see young children who should not be in possession of alcohol But because this is very accessible,
and very
it is affordable. You see young people, underage people, basically, that's the right word, underage people consuming this alcohol. So I would like to know why these people are actually protesting this ban.
We'll find out when you pick up a copy and get what the story is talking about. We're still talking about Rivers. Rivers been in the news. We have Fubara is APC leader in Rivers, and that's from presidency. And there's a writer that says Wike to join party before 2027 election. All of that you have it on page 3 and page 6 of Saturday Vanguard newspaper. And that's it on the Vanguard newspaper. Let's quickly see our stories, other stories making the headway.
Let's move to the This Day newspaper. And This Day newspaper has a bold story that says, "I'm not for sale. Kwankwaso as Governor. Yusuf resigns from the NNPP," with the writer that says, "Governor quits with all State Assembly, National Assembly members, local government chairman." And above that, you see a picture story of the President Tinubu and the Olubadan of Ibadan, Oba Rashidi Lamidi there. Of course, they had a meeting yesterday, so I'm sure this story is about that meeting, and we've seen that they talked about security and all of that.
Well, that's it. We have that story almost similar to all we have. Let's go above the masthead there that talks about economy and policies. We have CBN set to unveil revised FX manual to boost market confidence, strengthen Naira. And the writer that says transactions on NJX rise to 11.9 trillion Naira, highest in 20 years. And that story is there for you to pick up a copy and find out what that is really saying in the last 20 years.
Yes, and I think we've got an answer to the question I was asking earlier, because the story just below that says sachet drink ban. NLC distillers ask NAFDAC to consider local manufacturers. So that's the angle they are looking by protesting that ban.
So if local manufacturers are producing this particular sachet drinks, there should be strong implementation to consumption.
Yes.
In terms of
who is consuming.
Who is consuming.
Yes.
So there should be a way they can follow up and give accountability of consumers, because that's one area we need to look at, which is a major concern
certainly
in the country.
Because they will tell you that all alcoholic drinks in Nigeria is plus 18. So if you're a manufacturer and you have business at mind, you should also consider morality. So if you are manufacturing for adults but it's getting to the wrong hands, what is your own way in accountability and covering those things, like you said? So we have to find a balance, basically.
Okay, well, there you have it. Pick up a copy. That's the same picture story you have just below there in the particular paper there. So let's see what the Weekend Trust has for us. That's the much we can take with this day. Let's see what the Weekend Trust, which I always love to look at the Weekend Trust newspaper.
Infographics.
I'm telling you, this is a whole different one. And then, so the bold headline there with the picture. Yes. It comes up, it says, Governor Yusuf moves, Kwankwaso holds. And then I'm trying to see, understand the infographics there.
Of course, the NNPP, I think it's because the symbol happens to be fruits. So he's dumping those fruits now. I think he's grabbing the broom. Even though there's no broom in the picture.
I'm not saying the broom yet. So I'm thinking fruit is healthy. But it looks like...
But you need to sweep some things sometimes.
So that's it. And then I'm looking forward to seeing all the red caps I usually see. I'm imagining the movement, so we won't see much of these red caps in the parliament.
Or maybe we might see them with a twist of another symbol. Those things could happen.
But that's it. That's the thing about politics. Well, that's what that says. Look at page 4 and get to understand what the story is saying.
Yes, and above the picture story, we see a story just by the left that says Fubara is APC leader in Rivers, and that is the president's aide, Daniel Bwala, speaking. And details of the story is on page 24 of the Weekend Trust newspaper, that is.
Okay, so then we have Reps panel confirms alterations in Gazette tax laws. That story is on page 10. That has been one story before even the House went on recess.
Yes.
That was raised by the Honorable Dasuki there, where he talked about it. Discrepancies with what was put in together at the Senate and the House that went to the President was a whole different thing. And stories, of course, came around it. Follow-up where a committee was set up to look into that, and now we see that it's actually confirmed, and it's good that when things are not done properly, it's called
accountability.
Accountability speaks for them. So pick up a copy of this Weekend Trust and get that.
And just beside that story, a bit of agric story. It says farmers record losses as tomato price crashes, with details on page 15.
Interestingly, I saw lots of fresh tomatoes. I was planning to do a lot of stew.
I think even aside tomato, I don't know if it's the how would I put it now? I see a lot of vegetables also. I've seen a lot of carrots, a lot of
and they're quite affordable right
exactly.
now. And you see a lot of people marketing and saying you need to get this. Have you seen the basket size and the price and how fresh it looks?
Yes. The only thing I heard is not affordable now, even though it was previously affordable, is what's it called now? The Irish potatoes. It's now getting more expensive. I don't know what that's happening, but I like vegetables, and I like that they're affordable because, you know, they say eat healthy. So that's a good one for us. I like to eat healthy. So that's where you have it. Let's quickly move past that. Below that story, we have investigative story there talking about Gujini, a Kaduna community taken over by poisonous suits. Okay, that's a different twist from all we've seen across all papers. So we'll pick up a copy of the Weekend Trust and look at page 10 and understand what is happening with that community. Well, and that's it on the Weekend Trust. Let's quickly move our focus to Saturday Independent newspaper that has its own story, a different way, talking about the major headline that the house Nigeria housing deficit. We have over 20 million units needed to mitigate rapid urbanization, and there that story is there for you on page 8, talking about housing deficits. There's a whole lot happening around the housing sector. It is, Anita. There are lots of people who are not with houses. But my own concern, even beyond this 20 million, is what I see number of houses that are unoccupied within the city center. You'd see a lot of people have properties that are unoccupied and they leave them. They even forget about those proproperties. And we're having over 20 million people without good housing. So how do we balance that? That's something that I think the stakeholders need to find a balance around. And away from that story, going above the nameplate, we see a story that says, Kudirat Abiola, Supreme Court has proven my innocence. That is Major Al-Mustafa speaking. And the detail is on page 3 of the Saturday Independent newspaper. Okay, so that's looking at that. Let's move beside that particular story. We have TUC, NLC threaten nationwide strike, give FG 14-day deadline. That story is on page 6 of the Saturday Independent paper. And then we have other stories as well, which is, let's come down a bit. So we have the story that says, from courtroom to carnival, how public applause welcome politicians facing corruption charges. That story is on page 30. Well, interestingly, pick up a copy, you understand what the narration is about and what the story is really pointing to for you to get a better. Yes, and away from that story, a bit of politics. This one has the kicker 2027, how party ticket seekers are making silent deals in Kwara's opposition field, with details on page 20 of the Saturday Independent newspaper. Okay, so we have also brutality of senseless killings must end in Jos, PDP insists. And we have the writer that says, demands government's actionable plan to address root causes of insecurity. That story is on page 4, talking about the issue of insecurity and senseless killings.
Yes.
Honestly, that's
the rate at which people are losing their lives.
Look at the one in Kano. That's, I think, a typical definition of a senseless killing. And beyond just Jos, I think this is something that we should across the nation.
Yes.
Because people cannot lose their lives for no reason is good enough to kill somebody, basically. But especially in these circumstances that we've seen in the previous week. So we hope that is able to be tackled and we have sanity in our nation.
Okay, so we have on the story that says presidency backs Fubara over AP's leadership in Rivers State. We had that story earlier across other paper. And there's a story here. It's just a picture story there. I don't enjoy bad boy roles. Specifically, I just like telling character stories. Buchi Franklin speaking there, a bit of it.
Well, you've seen his movies, and most of the movies are those bad boy roles, and he plays them quite well.
You know, people have talent, but someone will say, I don't know how true that word is, that some things you put out in terms of acting have
Yes.
a bit of it inside of you.
Your personality.
Your personality tells a bit of that, but he's saying he
That's
doesn't
not
enjoy
him.
it. He
And
just,
you know, the interesting thing for me is how some audience are not able to break from the reality and the friction. When they see them in real life, they be like, you're such a wicked person. Why did you do that? Is just acting.
we've seen a lot of people who have faced that kind of challenge over
Yes.
time due to their potential or their character in movies or
Yes.
whatever they do. But please try and pay attention and get close a bit.
Yes, please.
And find out about that. But that's the much we can take with that paper. Let's quickly go to our paper, the Guardian paper, which the Guardian Weekend, which says boldly, stay alert in public places. Defense headquarters advises citizens, and that story is on page 2. So it's high time we also need to watch out for ourselves, because security is everybody's business.
Of course.
It's not just for the security operatives to always look out for, but you
We are
also
all
need to pay attention.
stakeholders.
Everywhere you go to, your eyes should be shining with like torchlights.
It should.
You should pay attention
Because
to every
vigilance
detail.
is one of the basics of security. If you're not vigilant,
If
how
you're
would you
not.
get intelligence to share with the
Because
the
they will need the
operatives?
intelligence to follow through and know what went down to
Certainly.
guide whatever they are going to do in order to keep. So please, let's stay safe, stay alert, and also be able to advise ourselves if for whoever thinks is not something to pay attention to.
Certainly. And moving away from that story, we just go above the mass and see a story that says weak policies, poor regulation, government neglect push families to homelessness, and that's a special feature on pages 8 and 9 of the Guardian newspaper. And away from that, a bit of business, also a feature story, says tracking CBN's drive for bigger, resilient banks through recapitalization.
Yeah, a bit of business there, and you need to find out what that is saying. Pick up and know what's up. But let's also look at stories here. We talked about this earlier across the papers. Below the mass lead story there, it says court adjourns for Barra deputy anti-impeachment suit indefinitely, and as speaker orders appeal against earlier orders. That story is on page 3. Pick up that copy. You also have the issue around the national grid.
That's a story that
everywhere.
is always in the news. It says national grid suffers first collapse in 2026, and a generation falls to zero.
Power supply is one thing that we need to actually pay. I think it's high time attention is paid to the national grid, because of how we had this last year.
Multiple times. I think it was about 7 times last year.
And this is the first time in 2026. And the year is still early, please. January, like say early. January
We just
is out
started.
already. January is out.
Yes.
This is the first month of the year, and we're already having this
Collapses
playing
of the
out.
grid.
So imagine what we're going to see
Throughout the year.
So I think it's high time attention is a permanent solution is looked at this particular national grid, which is always a major concern for citizens.
Hope it is sorted out.
Yeah, I see. But let's see also, we have other stories also there below that story. Also still have the picture story on this time around. There are placards demonstrating the issue around insecurity, and also around the NAFDAC ban of the sachet drinks as well. So it's just a wash every paper there.
Away from that story, just below we see a story that says ambassadorial posting reversal as the kicker. It says concerns over presidency's information management approach, with the writer that says reversal can breed confusion, encourage speculation. That is Senoyon speaking, and details of the story is on page 2 of the Saturday Guardian newspaper. Okay,
so we still have other stories there. You see at where we have at WEF, where we have Shetima 6 African-led growth urges shift from aid to investment. That story there on page 3. Pick up that paper and find out more on that story. Yeah, we picked this earlier. Reps Minority Caucus identifies alterations to tax laws. Well, that's it. But there's a story below that got my attention. It says, where is Sadio Mane in your team? That's a bit of sports.
That's a bit, you're the sports diva, like we like to call you.
Yeah.
And Mane obviously had a showman outing in the AFCON, leading his team to victory. And beyond even the action on the pitch, his leadership style and the way he was able to manage that final crisis with the players walking off the pitch and he telling them to come back, I think that has cemented his place as one of the greats in African football. And I was seeing this same question, people saying he would be among the team of the greatest African players of all all time. So that's something for debate, obviously. But that's why they're asking the question: where is Mane in your team?
Okay, well, we'll find out where he is, apparently. But let's quickly move our focus to Saturday Telegraph newspaper, which probably might be our last paper for the day. And it has its own story leading the headline, and it says, Sergei Ejiofor Okoye negotiating with terrorists, national sabotage has to stop. We have the writer that says you can't negotiate with those fighting without a cause. Military's ability to tackle insecurity hampered compromise. We also have Kaduna kidnapping, Nigeria living in lies, denials, hypocrisy, Kukas speaking there, and that story is on page 4 and 8. We have a whole lot of narrative to this particular story that we need to look at. This is also tackling the issue of terrorism and also insecurity that has kept us
bedeviled the nation, basically.
Kept us at one spot, and it's not helping the nation. If we need to get more investors look at us and boost the economy and give people reasons to stay and live and not just survive because of insecurity.
Of course, because people have said negotiating with terrorists is something that is done everywhere, but the question is, has it really given us results in Nigeria? And from my own perspective, I think the answer is no. So negotiating with these terrorists, when it's not giving us results, I feel it's not something we should even do. We should tackle them head on, except in cases where the government might not have another option. Then that might be the last thing, but it should not be our first approach, negotiation. No, we should tackle them heads on, basically.
Okay, so beside that, we still have stories above that where that masthead, it says troops killed 2 Boko Haram ISWAP commanders, 10 others, and that story is on page 10. Of course, this is a bit of showing what the security agencies are doing. Despite the whole insecurity issues, they are also putting out their best to see how this can be reduced to the barest minimum. So let's see this keep coming, and we hope that we get more results out of this insecurity issues.
And away from that, to see a story that we've seen before, so we don't talk much about it. It says impeachment, court adjourns Fubara suite indefinitely, and it's a writer that says restrained speaker orders from forwarding impeachment articles, documents to the CG, and details is on page 4 of the Telegraph newspaper. Okay,
so let's come down a bit. We have a story that says NLC orders total shutdown of FCT, backs indefinite strike by FCTA workers. That story is on page 2 of Saturday Telegraph newspaper. Well, we know that has been happening in the last few days. We've had the FCT workers saying no work anymore. Activities
until these things are addressed.
But don't forget that the FCT also responded that they had
we have done most of your demands.
Demands made, but they are saying it has
not
to be done.
It's not enough.
Everything has to be implemented. Well, they have the reason, and NLC backing strongly there, and then that's it. But let's see. We still have the story. I talked about the story earlier. Why Governor Yusuf defection to APC is delayed. This is a different twist to it. It's saying why it's been delayed, why his defection.
Yes, because what he actually has done, he's not pledged allegiance to any particular party.
No, he has
just said, I have left the NNPP.
So he's left on what platform is he?
He's now, I think, maybe a neutral party, and of course, like you said,
so I think
at the moment he's not pledged to any party.
So then there's a writer that says Tinubu not keen on Kano governor's move without Kwankwaso. We also have Yusuf Doms NNPP with 21 state lawmakers. Like we said, 8 reps. It's cold betrayal of sacred trust party. So all attention is now moved to Kano State to see what his next step would be, and where is he headed in terms of political alignment, because there's been a lot of alignment and realignment in the political space, and which is the build-up to 2027, and a whole lot of attention is looking at that because we want to know who's taking care of us, to what area, what are we getting, all of that.
And Kano State is a state that has a large
number of
following,
people,
so wherever it is that has Kano State has a very big advantage going into 2027.
Okay, 2027, we look forward to that particular ride as Nigerians are keeping their fingers crossed. I saw somewhere where they were talking about the issue of demographics and those who come out to vote and how that's going to play. So we look out to how that's going to play out in this particular 2027 election process that will come up. Well, we've been talking a whole lot about stories making the headlines, and we look forward to more conversations, and we hope you pick up a copy of the papers like we've dished out to you and understand what's happening around you, and you'll be also informed and get acquainted with everything happening around you. Hey, Mukhtar?
Certainly, and it's been a very nice headlines over there, and I know our viewers would want to know details, so pick up a copy like we just told you, and we'll be having our conversation after this break.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
we delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
Glad to have you join us. It's been wet across the southwest over the past few days, and we expect this to change as dry winds are gradually pushing southward. And this will help suppress rainfall, keeping most areas dry, though conditions are expected to remain hazy. And for aviation operators, the coming days may bring significant visibility reduction due to expected thick dust haze, particularly across the northern parts of the country. Flight operators are strongly advised to consult the NIMET e-flight folder to support effective planning and safe operation. Looking ahead to Saturday, no major weather activity is expected, as dry, sunny and hazy conditions will prevail across the north down to the southwestern region. However, the southeast may experience patches of cloud with isolated thunderstorms possible over parts of Calabar in Cross River State. And that's the latest weather outlook. I'm Safia Senginusa. Thank you for watching.
Good morning once again and welcome back to Global Morning. It is time for our first discussion of the day. And today's conversation is especially timely because today marks the International Day of Education, a day set aside by the United Nations to reflect on the role education plays in shaping societies, economies, and also individual lives. And here in Nigeria, education is more than a policy issue. It is personal, and that's because it affects a lot of families, it affects our communities, jobs, and also the future of the country itself. So this morning, rather than just celebrating education, our intention is to examine it honestly with the intention to know what it is we're getting right and what it is we are struggling with, and what kind of education does Nigeria truly need in this day and time, and what's the way forward. So basically our topic this morning is education in Nigeria. What are we getting right and what must change? And joining me for this conversation is Mr. Olusukanmi Opefa, and he is an education consultant who works across institutions, who works with communities, and is a policy-focused education initiative. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Mr. Opefa.
Good morning. Thank you for the honor.
It's a pleasure to have you, sir. So on a day like this, which is the International Day for Education, when we talk about education, many people in Nigeria and across the world, we think it's just about classrooms, about certifications and examinations. But from your perspective, what does education really mean in the Nigerian context beyond the classroom?
Thank you very much, and happy International Day of Education to all of us. Because education, that's also becoming the response to your question now. Education is the business of everybody. I would like to just tweak the question a little bit. In the real context of it, education itself, okay, I'm picking it from what John Dewey said, that education is life and not preparation for life. So in the real context of it, education should just be the totality of a man. I mean, taking a man from where he is to where he's supposed to be. I mean, enlightening the mind, opening the eyes to see things, giving the right and giving the authority to the man, giving a sense of full independence of mind to such a man. Okay, that is full education. When you know what you're supposed to know and you can use that tool to function in real life, then now you are educated. I mean, this can be extended philosophically beyond what I said. But your question has a clause. It said in the and maybe I should say we don't want to really go there. In the context of our country, education cannot be separated from classroom, education cannot be separated from certificate, education cannot be separated from the structure, because once you say you hear you are educated, I mean, oftentimes we are talking about your first degree, and the least of it. As an educated man, right, then the context is that, okay, the person has gone to the university. So if you are extending it beyond the classroom, you can say the loose language. You say, but you're an educated man, right? Aren't you educated? Then they mean you have at least first degree. You have been to a higher institution to get a level of education. But in the real context now of Nigeria, sincerely, education is becoming not life itself. Is pretending to be like preparation for life, that oftentimes when we even now receive the so-called education and we come out into the real life, you realize that, I don't use the word too early, but I'm going to use it now. You realize that you've been scammed of a kind, where you wonder, okay, what did I receive? Is it education that I received or something else? I mean, how best we describe education in the country where the real so-called education students are not even given the full education that they need to function in the classroom? How do we define education in the real sense of where those who are saving life, which say education is life, do not even have the full knowledge or the apparatus to function? I'm talking about medical doctors. I mean, how do we define education where the lecturers and the rest are really denied a whole lot of things? How do we define education where those who are controlling the affairs of education itself, policy makers and the rest, are not in full connection with the reality, both in the classroom and in the society? So education in Nigerian context, I mean, it's something that we don't really want to talk about in Nigerian context. We just need to pray that it gets better.
Hopefully it gets better. And I'd like us to also look at the issue of access and quality, because over the years we've seen the government making efforts to expand access to education with more schools, more schemes that allow people to enroll in school, and also more institutions have been coming up. But for many people, we ask the question, are we focusing more on access than quality? So from your assessment, how do you see it? How can we balance between giving people more access to education and also making sure that access is qualitative?
I mean, we can't really take it away that the government are trying to try. Forgive my choice of words, but I think that's the only thing I can say now. They are not yet trying, but they are only trying to try, and we can also, I mean, give them an applause for that, for what they are doing. Now let's go back to the two key words here. We talk about access and we talk about quality. So let's take access first, because we cannot separate even access from quality in the real sense of it. When it talks about access now, the quality also matters too, because access to quality is another thing. There is access to schooling, so in the sense of it, and there is access to quality schooling or quality education. But let's take it from access. Late 2024 or somewhere around there, we learned that the out-of-school children, I mean, practically now, out-of-school children, out of school, the real formal education now, out-of-school children were close to 20 million. We have 20 million children that are not in formal education. Now, how do we give access to this? How do we define access in the real sense of the context of these children? And that is those who are out of school. Now, if you are not talking about those who are in school, that we can claim they have access to school. Now, do they have access to real quality? Are they different from those who are outside at the end of the day? Yeah, they might wake up 8 a.m. On the assembly get 8 a.m. Get to the assembly by 8 a.m., close by 1:30 or 2 p.m. and go back home. They have access to a 4 walls, but do they really have access to schooling? Do they really have access to real education? Do they really have access to quality education? So a whole lot of questions that we just need to answer there. But let's take it from the general access now. What are we doing for the 20 million? Yeah, I learned that about 1,000 Almajiri school have been built to accommodate as many of them as possible. But unfortunately, I'm telling you, by the time I drive out of my house now, just to the roundabout of Karu here in Abuja here, you are still going to see a whole lot of student Almajiri children roaming the street. We don't even to go far. Before you know, you are going to the interland there. So who is giving access to these children? So we still have a lot to do if we are going to access or measure this, doing assessment of this now. Governments need to do a lot in accommodating a lot of children there. Private schools are trying, but the government themselves also need to do a whole lot. The state government really need to do a whole lot. Now, talking about quality education, it's a gory situation currently in most of our public schools. You've seen pictures of schools without furniture, where students will have to sit on the floor. You've seen them without roof. It's still interesting to know that some students still receive education under the tree. It's still interesting to know that teachers don't even have staff room where they can sit, where they can even prepare their lesson plans, and then they still need to go to the classroom. A whole lot of things. We are not just talking about 4 walls now. Now, what are the things that actually make education qualitative? Real quality education. Can we talk about technology now?
Yes.
How many children have access to quality education as far as technology is concerned? We are even going too far. Let's talk about real pedagogy. How many children can sit in a class and know that they are having access to real relevant teaching method coming from their teacher? Now the point is this: do the teachers also know? Now take it again beyond that again. How many teachers actually learn the right thing from their universities or colleges of education that they can actually give? Now away from that, how many of them currently now are undergoing continuous professional development? Because education, if it is life, it means it is not static. It is growing, it's dynamic. Now how many of them know that corporal punishment is no longer what we are supposed to do? You see that happening. That's as basic as it is. Now we're not talking about some pedagogical skills that teachers need to possess. How many of them know some strategic approaches? How many of them actually understand differentiation strategies to teach? Because there are no two kinds of students in the classroom. In a classroom of 40, we have 40 students. We have 40 different learners, 40 different learning styles. How many teachers can stand and teach these 40 students to achieve the same objective at the same time? Now, this is where quality education in terms of teachers' development, pedagogy enhancement, technology introduction, and so many other things needs to just come in. Now, talking about quality education again, if I'm going to stop here, compare the population we have in the classroom with the standard we are supposed to have. An average primary school should not have up to 25 pupils in the classroom. But what do we have today? Go to most secondary schools around everywhere now. In public schools, you will see nothing less than 100 to 120 in the classroom. I'm not God. There's no way I can stand in such a class and I will deliver maximally. There is no way. I can only try. As in this, I'm a very passionate teacher. I can only try my best. And that is even for secondary school. Talk about our higher institutions where we see a lecturer facing about 1,000 students because they are doing general studies or because they are students of Faculty of Management Science. You see crowd there and you expect such a lecturer to sit down and mark and give quality education. No. So here now, bridging the gap, the government actually need to do a whole lot. We just need to be very intentional and do not just see education as just that thing. We should see education as deep investment. The return on investment may not come right now, but I bet it is if you are selfless, it's a matter of 10 years. We start seeing the dividends of quality education if we so invest in it right now. So in summary, government just need to be very intentional in investing in education and see it as a real business that can take this country to the real promised land.
Thank you very much for that response. And you talked about the classroom, and incidentally, I was going to ask you about these challenges which you've mentioned. So now the question is, how do these challenges affect the teachers and the learners in the long run, especially in the bid to achieve quality education? This challenge.
Mukhtar, thank you. I mean, you would agree with me that there is no way this will not affect quality education, teachers' delivery, learning outcome, what students will get at the end of the day. I mean, just let's use an analogy of ration of food given meant for 2-3 children and is given to like 20 children. There will be malnutrition at the end of the day. So that is what we are having now currently in our education system. Our students, our learners are intellectually malnourished because the way we are serving them is not going. I mean, it's becoming the survival of the fittest of a kind, because the teacher too will not have enough time. Now, so let's take it one by one. How does it affect teachers? A teacher is a human being. A teacher has his own life to live too. Okay, aside, I cannot. People will say, "Na teaching I choose. I no key person," something like that. So a teacher too is just a human being that should stand and it has blood flowing there. I only have limited energy, and teaching job is a very tasking job. If you check it, you need to stand in front of people, okay, and then you need to talk for 40 minutes, or you need to engage them for 40 minutes, depending on your style as a teacher. If you are using teacher-centered or you are using child-centered learning, which is the recommended one, you need to stand there. Now imagine you are now standing in front of 120 instead of standing in front of 35. That means you are going to have you're going to expand triple of your energy, expend triple of your energy in front of them. So you get burned out easily. So many teachers are getting burned out now. And you shouldn't be surprised that many of them are running out of the classrooms. And now they are looking for the easier way out. As I said one time, that we're not losing teachers to any other thing but to survival. They just want to survive first. You are not losing them to but to survive. You see many of them now grabbing home lessons. They prefer to sleep all through the day and then teach a child in Canada overnight and then make some cool money, better than staying in the classroom and earn peanuts there. So that is the quality there is affecting the commitment of teachers there. And those who are committed are sweating it out. Their health is not balanced. I said this several times that let medical doctors, those specialized in mental health, go into our classrooms, go into our schools and diagnose our teachers. You will see that a lot of them are battling with mental health problems of different degrees, because they cannot just imagine you being in the space like that with noise, with crowd, no facility, your environment is terrible, and then you'll be mentally okay. So that is on that one. For the students, it's not easy. As I said, they are fully malnourished. Lesson that is meant, a space that is meant for just 40 people, 35 people, you are cramming nothing less than 100 inside the place. I have a story to tell of how I tried to be part of this system to contribute meaningfully, and I equipped a classroom that could ordinarily sit meaningfully. 50 students, I equipped it with technological gadgets out of some funds there. And gradually the population of the students started increasing. Normally they will come into the hall to come and learn. Yes. From 30 to 40, from 30 to 40, from 40 to 50, 70. I'm telling you, this happened in 2024 in a public school in Abuja here. To 70, to 90. At a point, the class increased to almost 150. Of course, there was no way we could accommodate the children anymore. I gave up at that point. Now you can imagine the opportunity lost to that. So it's a great. You can't measure it. It's not something we can pretend from. It's really affecting the quality. And at the end of the day, what we have affected is the learning outcome. Okay. Now, learning outcome in two ways: in terms of result and in terms of the quality of what the children are actually picking to practice with in the real world. Learning is not taking place. Learning cannot take place in a situation like that, in a chaotic situation like that. So basically, this lack of quality is affecting teachers' commitment, teachers' health, and their welfare, and it's also on the long run affecting our learning outcome in terms of performance in real examination, and in terms of what the children can actually do with the knowledge they acquire, if they ever acquire anything.
That's quite interesting. That's a lot. But I'd like for us to now turn our attention to education and real-life preparedness, because a growing concern among educators and students is whether the kind of education system we have in Nigeria is preparing students for real-life outcome, for work, for problem solving, and also civic responsibility. So do you think Nigeria's education system is doing enough to equip learners with practical and relevant skills to survive in the real world?
Right, thank you. We can't really take it away. Let's start from there, from the government again, that everybody is intentional. Everybody is trying to be intentional. Let me say that. Everybody wants to make sure that, okay, at least when I talk about Nigerian education, especially when I'm given the opportunity, I tell you that I want to make it something that is preparing the children or preparing the learners for real life. But the reality still boils down to what we have, very practical. So let's take it from one of the policies that the government just introduced, where we say entrepreneurial education will be introduced into our school, digital learning and the rest. Fine, I mean, fantastic policy. But in the real practical sense of it, how many teachers do we have in our schools that can teach any of these things? That's one. How many schools have equipment to actually achieve the aim of this policy? That is two. Now, and I mean, you can keep on checking the criteria to achieving real life practice of what you learn in school, and you realize that probably you only get one because you have structure, you have this space where students can go. Now, after 4 years, after 3 years, after 4 years, after 6 years, depending on the education received now, the reality is that the children cannot come out and say, this is what I have learned. Years back in 2011, 2012, during the I think Jonathan era, yes, where I think Dr. Rufai or something was the Minister of Education, trade subjects were introduced. I mean, in the number, about nothing less than 30 trade subjects were introduced. At the end of the day, I mean, kept it from there till now, what do we have at the end of the day? No, I don't think any of the children really learned anything they can practice. I mean, animal husbandry, fishery, clothing and textiles, and so many things. I don't think any child that went to a public school regularly can really come out. If by chance, maybe some private school that had equipment to practice one or two things, can maybe less than 1% can actually practice. Now we are picking it up again to say, okay, we limit the trade subject or the vocational subject, the entrepreneurial subjects to maybe 5. But are we really equipping our schools, our teachers, to actually use this? Now that is under trade. Now there are other parts of, you talk about civic responsibilities, and a lot of things are in our curriculum that are really outdated that we just need to check. Now this is what I feel is the solution. Can we jettison this old curriculum? If you really want something that will really be very practical, can we jettison it? I'm not saying we should compare our curriculum with US curriculum or British curriculum. I'm never a fan of any of those anyway. Our curriculum is our curriculum. Our curriculum should be Niger-centric. Our curriculum should be Afrocentric. Now, can we look inward and ask ourselves the sincere question? What do we really want to achieve in the next 20 years, in the next 10 years in this country? Now, can we get experts, not teachers alone? Teachers will be there. Experts in the field, in the current field now, experts in digital technology should come out. Experts in business, experts in mining, experts in different walks of life should come together and say, this is where the world is now. And then tell us where the world is. Curriculum experts will now take that one and analyze it to say, okay, we are going to train our children between here, this time and this time. And when they come out, they will become a solution provider in this particular field, because this is where the world is. And this is where the world is going. Then we can now say that whatever we are teaching now as skills in our school, there is no way the children will not come out and be very meaningful. I mean, can we ask ourselves the sincere question? Must we spend 6 years in primary school in the real sense of it? Must we spend 6 years in secondary school? Must our university be 4 years a medical student? I mean, can we ask that question, that why are we spending this time? Because the white people have handed it down to us that you must gain admission to secondary school by the age of 12. We didn't even question it. We didn't bother to ask. We are talking about formative age and the rest. Are we checking the psychology of these children in the 21st century, the Gen Alphas now? Are we checking their psychology to know whether what we talked about 20 years ago based on research is still in existence or is still a reality with them? So all these are questions we need to answer if we are sincere as a country. I mean, to round up this particular part now, not to complain about whether it is functional, it is reality or not. We just need to do away with this curriculum as if it never existed or it existed in the past, and sit down and bring experts from different walks of life relevant to the country, context and vision, and then bring experts in curriculum, teachers and everyone. Let's ask them the sincere question. Where is this industry? where do you see this industry in the next 10 years? How can we prepare our students for that reality? And then we break it down and teach the relevant things. There are some mathematics we don't need to teach. I love what the minister did. That mathematics should not be one of the things that should determine the admission of a child into a university. And that is true. Mathematics teaches critical thinking. Is the only mathematics. Comprehension passages teaches passages teach critical thinking too. There are a lot of other aspects of subject that where we learn critical thinking. So must we go? I mean, that's a question that we should be asking. Must I have mathematics in the classroom? Okay, if I'm to have mathematics, what kind of mathematics should I have? There should be business maths, there should be humanity maths, if there is anything like that. So these are questions, critical thinking approaches that we need to use, and then meet education. Then in no time, we will see that we are going to move our education to become functional education, not the one that is just fulfilling the aim or the desire of the the colonial master.
That's a thoughtful insight you've brought there. You've spoken a lot of sense, if you ask me. So I would like for us to also look at education, because education is supposed to be a bridge between inequality and also provide opportunities for people, because we've described it as a great equalizer. But in Nigeria, we still see that there's a strong divide. The urban versus the rural, the public versus the private, the rich and the poor, and all those divisive tendencies. So the question is, how does inequality show up in our education system, and what risk does this inequality pose for the future of education in Nigeria?
Thank you, Mukhtar. You see, the reality is in a society like our society, where we naturally believe in social stratas, we will do anything to achieve that class. And unfortunately, education, which was never like that, okay, has become one of the tools used to achieve that classism or that divide. Many years ago, my father told me that I'm sending you guys to school, struggling and suffering for you, so that the opportunities I never had for not really having complete education, you would have. So he thought. And then after 16 years of education, we came out and we still had to be begging to just be employed to get, 35,000 as at that time, 45,000 naira as salary. Just to, now up till now, there are a lot of PhD holders roaming the streets, because we thought erroneously that education will bridge the gap and then you will be able to get higher there and do a whole lot. So let's come back to the question now. Is education helping us to bridge inequalities? No. Unfortunately, education is even creating deeper inequalities in our society, because the kind of education my children are receiving, because we live in a rural area, it's not the same kind of education the children of the opportune are receiving where they are. And at the same, unfortunately, they will now come out to this society and function. Automatically, the class has been created. So primary education is the same in paper, but it's not the same in terms of delivery, because we don't have the same quality of teachers, we don't have the same quality of facilities, we don't have the same quality of content at the same time there. So education in Nigeria currently is not achieving, it's not bridging the gap of inequality. It's even expanding it, and it's getting worse day by day. It's feeding the class. How do you explain a situation where a child goes to school and that child can come out and use a whole lot of tools like Minecraft, like artificial intelligence very well, and then another one goes to school and never touched the computer, and we both claim we write WAEC at the end of the day to gain admission to the same university? How do you explain the division even in our university? The federal universities are well equipped. Somebody still coming out of the university, not to say I'm working for the state government alone, or I'm doing for the federal government, but to achieve one national goal, if there is any goal anyway. Okay, so basically, just to answer this, education currently is not helping the matter as far as inequality is concerned. It's even deepening it deeper and deeper.
So as a follow-up question, can a nation truly progress if this quality of education is not even, the access and the quality is not even across board? If there's a divisive tendency in our education, how does that tell on our overall nation-building progress?
The answer is on the streets. That is why we are where we are. I mean, that's the answer to that. I mean, the answer is just on the street there. The answer is just everywhere we're talking about it. So no nation can progress if we fail to achieve that. I mean, look, take it back many years ago when education was that bridge that can bring the child of the poor to the table as a decision maker once you have education. The country was progressing well. I read a story on social media where dollars was far less than naira. And I mean, it was Wikipedia, was on LinkedIn, where dollars was far less than naira. That at that time we had surplus of our budget of 15 billion naira or 15 billion naira or 15 trillion. I can't remember a particular amount that was surplus, which happened to be like the current budget now of 3 states combined together. You know, so but what happened then? The difference between that time and now is not time. Is the fact that some people were educated and they were given the opportunity to contribute meaningfully to the nation. Unfortunately, those who have been able to do that now are even deprived. They tell us that education will make us leaders, and they keep on calling us leaders of tomorrow. And many of us now are in our 40s, and we have not even smelled being the HOD of our department, let alone even leading a nation. Now, and then here you have a lot of things to contribute to the system, but you are not even given the opportunity, whether you are educated or not, because the place is oversaturated with those who are not ready to move it forward. So the point is, where inequality is, progress will be hampered. And that is the case of Nigeria now. Inequality in our education, inequality in our system is affecting the progress of the country. I mean, we've seen cases where only the privileged ones will be given maybe scholarship or probably to represent the country, and then those who can actually do it will be dropped because of so many factors, because they are not connected, they are not rich, they are not powerful, they are not in the decision making opportunity. So in summary to your question is, the country can never move forward if we continue with this inequality in our system.
Thank you so much, Mr. Opefah. I'd like for us to also talk about insecurity, displacement, and learning. Because in Nigeria, we've seen that insecurity, displacement, and poverty have shut many children out of school, especially in rural and conflict-affected areas. So from your experience, how has this reality affected learning outcomes? And what practical steps can be taken to ensure that education doesn't collapse in these vulnerable communities?
Thank you very much, Mukhtar. In a situation like this, in a country like this, when we're talking about education in real terms of schooling, I think the first thing in our situation, especially in the north, the first thing that should determine whether a school should operate or not is not just safety, as in what we call safety in the regular term of safety, but adequate security. A personal story of a case last year when there was serious kidnapping in some states in the north. Talk about Kebbi, talk about Niger State, and the rumor of the one in Nasarawa. And here I found myself not too far from Nasarawa. I was out of the state, out of the territory when I had the case, and I panicked. I almost called home that please, none of my children should leave for any school. They should stay at home. Well, we were able to contain the situation that it was a rumor. I mean, this story will just answer the question. And by the time the term ended and it were to resume this year, I withdrew my children from the school because, one, in terms of security, zero. The school happened to be at the outskirts a little bit, and I felt if anything should happen at this particular point, they were vulnerable. I had to withdraw them. I mean, these are children progressing in their academics now in the first term. I mean, if any parent will any same parent want to withdraw any child from a school, most of the time we do it at the end of a session when they will have completed a whole academic year. No, but because of insecurity, I had to withdraw them to a nearby school that ordinarily they didn't feel have enough quality and facilities. But I had no choice. I mean, I had no choice. I wouldn't risk that. I had to be seeing them every day. Let me see you go and let me see you come around me. You cannot imagine such a situation now in a volatile environment, much worse than my own environment here. Some children have been dropped out of school just not because they could not afford it, but because they just could not afford the fact that, I mean, the trauma alone of having hearing that bandits surrounded your children's school and then they now left. I mean, nothing happened, or the only surrounding and or even the rumor alone. In my community here, we had a rumor during that at that time. Every school, all the school closed down before 12 o'clock. During that same moment, we just had a rumor, and the entire community went agog. Everywhere, the children ran, scampered to their various homes. You can imagine such. The confidence in our education is no longer there because of insecurity, and this is affecting a whole lot. Now, I'm talking about teachers kidnapped. Will I come back and be in that system? No. I mean, the case of a teacher that was kidnapped along a Peru road, nobody's talking about it. No government ever talked about it. It was never seen or read on any major newspaper. We shouted, we talked about it. It's the end. A poor teacher from a private school was asked to go and bring 100 million naira. Sorry, if I have any teacher that wants to study education now, I will say, no, please, boy, think of something else. Okay, because of insecurity. And so insecurity is a major, aside poverty now, it's a major problem, and the government needs to be more than intentional. Our schools need to be fully secured. Teachers should not be victim of this insecurity. Non-teaching staff should be victim of this insecurity, and no child should be a victim of this insecurity. So once that is achieved, yes, I think we can start looking at education. So insecurity is a major bane to the success of education in this country.
Thank you so much, Mr. Opefah, for that insight. I would like for us to also turn our attention to the role of technology in education, because technology has changed how people learn in the globe, not Nigeria alone, across the world, of course, from online classes to digital tools. But the question now is, how realistic is technology as part of solution to Nigeria's education challenges?
Yeah, thank you, Mukhtar. So technology is supposed to be a solution. But unfortunately, not having access to it is becoming a problem, because the world will not wait for us. The world is moving on. I mean, the world did not ask Nigeria if we knew how to type on Microsoft Word, Excel, and the rest of them before it introduced artificial intelligence.
True.
You know, years back, we used to gather teachers years back, and they will say, no, you must be digitally literate. And what did we mean then? You must know how to use Microsoft Word to write your lesson notes. You must know how to use Excel to calculate your result and prepare some sheets. You must know how to use PowerPoint for your presentation. You must know how to go on YouTube. You must know how to use social media and the rest. While we're still struggling with some teachers, and then they were like, no, we don't have time for this. We don't have to. We're still on that argument. Artificial intelligence crept in. And the whole system shifted. I mean, you hear Gen Zs now making jest of their daddies and mommies now. Anything I will say is AI, it's AI, it's AI. Now, a level of development had not been achieved at a particular point that was supposed to be fundamental to the understanding of how to use artificial intelligence. And suddenly now, so you can imagine the gap in between that. So many teachers are even lost, they don't even know what to do. We introduce artificial intelligence. Now the world is moving on faster like that. And you can imagine how many schools actually have this sincere that they have access to complete technology. True. Years back, my school was given 20 laptops many years ago. 20 laptops. I mean, the population of the school was almost 2,000, and we're just giving 20 laptops. Now, I went around that same school one time, and I didn't see anything in of course, what do you expect? It's 10 years now, and the laptops were put into use by 2,000 students. I mean, what do you expect? You don't expect it to be functional anymore now, and I don't think the school can actually boast of anyone now. So you can imagine what the world is becoming and what our education is becoming. While the world is running exponentially, our own country is running backward exponentially, far away, and the gap is getting wider and wider. So the technology, yes, is supposed to be the messiah for quality education. It's supposed to give us access to information. This is what we call information age now. Okay, not even information age, rather. This is intelligence age. We never maximize information age very well. Now we have been plunged into intelligence age, where we have access to information, but unfortunately, many of our children are still in the 20th century, operating education like 20th century. So technology ordinarily is the language of the 21st century, and is supposed to be the solution to quality education, to inequality, to a whole lot of things. I mean, I may not need to go back to university again if I know how to use technology very well, and I will be an excellent teacher. However, if I don't have access to this, how do I become that? Now, what's supposed to now be a messiah now, not having access to it now, is depriving us of taking our full position in the world, our full position among others competitors in the world. And know it, the world is a global village. Our children are global citizens. They are not just going to function in their local environment. They are supposed to function and compete with children in Hong Kong, in Singapore, in the US, and the rest. So how do we compete when our level of knowledge is totally zero or totally limited? So technology is fantastic. However, how much access do we have to it to compete effectively?
Thank you very much, Mr. Opefa. And we've talked about the government and the responsibility it has. But you will agree with me that the government is not able to do that all by itself, because it's a collective responsibility with parents, communities, and all of us as stakeholders. So education, it doesn't happen only in school like we're aware. So what role would parents, communities, and the society at large play in supporting the success of education in Nigeria?
Yeah, thank you, Mukhtar. Initially we established one reality, that education is life. And if education is life, then all stakeholders, all hands must be on deck to make sure that we sustain this life. So basically, education is a living thing. So everybody, and to survive, every part of it, just like a living thing now, you need your kidney, you need your heart, you need your brain, you need system. So it becomes a system where the parents cannot abandon it for the government. The larger society cannot, the corporate world cannot abandon it for teachers. The government cannot say, okay, we've given you schools, go and put your student there and start it. Everybody needs to work together. However, by the time we sit down and start looking at the responsibility of everybody, is government really willing? Let's talk about Ministry of Education as government now, really willing to bring in stakeholders from, see the corporate world as stakeholders in education and contact them to say, so this is what we are supposed to do. You see, education as a ministry actually shouldn't just exist as a ministry. Education as a ministry should have desk officers in all other ministries, because whatever we produce, we distribute to the other ministries. Should have desk officers, should have representation in all other sectors. But do we really do that? Yes, there are departments of education, but what do they do? Are they always part of the policy we are making? Are they part of the curriculum we are creating? So the reality remains that education cannot survive without the and that's why we are where we are today. Education cannot survive without the involvement of all stakeholders. Parents need to be very sensitive and conscious of their children's development. Gone are those days where you will come back from school and then you will need to stand in front of your father and mother. Of course, they don't have that time anymore anyway. And then you tell your father what you learned in school today. And then you pick your notes and they will assist you with the assignments. Okay, I don't think we really have that reality anymore in our system. In those days when your children are going to school, everybody can monitor your child from one place to another. School achieved that recently anyway. Don't let me go into that story anyway, but where the community can all be part of the growth and the development of the child, and they know that, no, we know your father, we know your mother, you are growing well here. To raise a child, it is the responsibility of the entire village. So to move education forward in this country, all stakeholders. Now, when we say stakeholders now, we are not just talking about parents, society, can we name it properly? All ministries, all corporate bodies need to be part of, not just as CSR contributing money. No, they need to be part of it. That we want engineers, and this is Shell, this is Chevron. Call the companies one by one, and then this is where we are taking Nigeria to. We need this kind of people. Teachers, can you teach us this and this and this? That is when they are stakeholders, not by name, not by contributing money, but by being part of the development of what education should be.
Well, that's so insightful. So on this day of education, for me, the big question before we wrap up, what would you say Nigeria is getting right in education, and what should change right now, basically?
It's an interesting question to hear that. After having criticized the system, and I want to look at from the other, and okay, what are we even getting right? And I had to do that sometimes last year. That, okay, we talk about Nigerian education as good as not good, but is there any area we are getting right? For the first time, I must say, in many years, education is getting attention of the country. So that one, we are getting that one right. At least when UTME result last year came out, and it was almost a comatose, and it was almost a disaster rather. The entire country got to know about it and we knew where the error was. Initially they started blaming teachers. If you remember that story, and then some of us teachers came out that no, shut your mouth, don't blame us. We don't have if you don't know anything about it. Ordinarily, I don't think UTME content is even in the most scheme of work of most states and ministries. They have their own thing separate, sincerely, and then JAMB had to go and look into it, and they discovered the error came from them. So the fact that attention is even being given to education is one. Why actually the same thing too? The entire world cried out, why should we be writing nocturnal examination? We are not bats. Children were writing exams in the night. The attention was called on that. And the current leadership, not to really patronize them, for the first time we see a minister that is even turning out policies. I mean, if for nothing, at least there's a form of attention that is saying that, okay, no, we know that this is where we are, mathematics should be. I mean, conscious effort is carried out almost. I mean, there was a time last year that almost every week the minister will release a policy. At least attention is given to education. But we don't need to stop it at policy making. We don't need to stop it at noise making around what we should do right or wrong. Now, we need to now ask ourselves, how do we implement these policies? Probably even before that, how relevant are these policies to the development of education? Then if we check it and they are right, based on research, evidence-based, not just turning out policies without background of research. Based on research, we discover it is necessary. Then we start asking ourselves, how do we implement it? Do we have the apparatuses to implement it? Are the teachers equipped enough to implement the new system, the new thing we're introducing to the curriculum? How do we increase the capacity of the teachers to do that? So doing that, I think we are taking it from what we are doing right to what we should do right, and hopefully it will get better. And then some of the things I've talked about, curriculum development, teachers development, and very well, I must say, teachers welfare. You see, teachers cannot be any peanut, losing their dignity, and we expect them to be committed to the work. It's a lie. We won't be committed. It's a normal law. Our basic needs, according to Abraham Maslow's law, is not yet met. Teachers are still struggling to survive. They are still struggling to put food on the table. A teacher that earns 250 looks like the king in his village, but unfortunately, calculate what takes him to work if he's driving and bringing him back. Calculate what he puts on the table. 250 is more of like for 2 weeks, and he has already acquiring debt before the end of the month. So we cannot leave teachers' welfare away from this. I wish the Ministry of Education can go back to that thing they promised in 2000 during the time of Buhari, where he himself said that teacher salary scale should be shifted, and what they actually wanted to put into it was so fantastic, Mukhtar. They are talking about teachers' wardrobe allowance, teachers' hazard allowance, different things, such that by now, if that had been implemented, people will be struggling to go and take PGD in education and want to enter education. Unfortunately, out of two things that were said, a teacher salary scale and elongation on the job, the increased elongation, you want to come and die in the classroom to retire at 65, with which energy? No.
True.
Make me retire at 50 and take care of me effectively. Okay, I will deliver and I will raise mentees, I will raise proteges that will take over the job and deliver very well. So basically, I'm going to emphasize that on teachers' welfare must be looked into, not just by increasing salary, but it should be an enhanced policy that every school, this should be the level or the minimum level of salary that should be given to them. And so many other factors that can also bring that to 4 can also be looked into.
Yes, thank you very much. So looking ahead, the last question before we wrap up, what one single shift, whether in policy or mindset, that would make the biggest difference? In less than 2 minutes, answer this question, please. Thank you very much.
Okay, what is that? What is what?
The question is, what's the one policy or mindset that would make the biggest difference in education in Nigeria today?
Okay, permit me to say, I will say it in 30 seconds, but I'm going to say 3 things, but it means just one thing. One, we need to shift in our facilities, okay, for school, okay, give modern facilities for learning. 2, we need to look into our curriculum very well and look at 21st century curriculum as related to Nigerian needs, and then teachers' welfare. See, all these 3 can be put into just one policy. Call it policy of reformation, FCT, facility, curriculum, and teachers' welfare.
Wow, that's a lot, and thank you so much for sharing your insight with us today, Mr. Opefah.
You're welcome. Thanks for the honor.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much. So that discussion has been with Mr. Olusokwami Opefa, and he's an education consultant, and we've been able to explore the topic education in Nigeria. What are we getting right and what must change? We looked at the realities of classroom, the balance between access and quality, and the impact of insecurity and displacement on learning, and how technology, communities, and values would shape the future of education in Nigeria. As we mark the International Day of Education, today's conversation reminds us that education is not just about schools or certificates. It's about building people who can think, contribute, and thrive. Because the future of Nigeria depends not only on how many people are educated, but how well they are educated. And that responsibility belongs to all of us, the government, the institutions, communities, parents, and individuals. Thank you so much for staying with us. More conversation comes your way after this break.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
New Imo is on the rise. In the beating heart of Owerri, business never sleeps. From sunrise to sundown, the wheels keep turning. And behind the scenes, vision meets action. Governor Hope Uzodinma's leadership has left the pages of manifestos to become real actions and achievements. Transformations that piece by piece feels like a miracle. But progress needs peace to thrive, and in Imo, we are not leaving it to chance. From land to sky to river deep, guardians are always watching, protecting dreams and opportunities. If you go to the quiet shore of Orashi Power, you will see the awakening of a hydropower roaring to electrify and energize a blossoming economy. The change is visible. The heartland of the East is under construction as new roads are threading together once forgotten places. Industry is humming again and communities are alive. At the center of it all, a digital revolution is rising. A new ministry with a new mission. Not just cables and codes, but capacity. 500,000 young minds trained each year to build a digital future. And as Orashi power goes up, so does Imo, lifting with it the hopes of a hard-working people. A new Imo is on the rise. New Imo is on the rise.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
Hello and welcome to Global Morning. We're still here and this is the discussion segment where we'll bring you all the exciting information because of course my colleague just left you where he gave you the Sharon education, but this time around I'm here to talk to you about what's been happening because our focus is on the ongoing strike by the Federal Capital Territory workers, an action that has shut down key services across Abuja and raised fresh questions about labor relations, governance and political responsibility in the nation's capital. At the center of the controversy are unresolved welfare demands, the role of the FCT administration under Minister Nyesom Wike, and the stance of the Joint Union Action Congress. Drag, how did we get here? Who holds the leverage and what does this mean for the residents of the FCT? All of this is what we're going to talk to you about on this particular segment. But let's run you through the contextual background, the news recap on the brief timeline of the strike, key demands of the FCT workers, services affected, health, education, sanitation, secretariats, previous negotiations, and the breakdown. Finally, we'll bring you public reactions and the political undertones that makes up this. Let's quickly look at this report where my colleague Kabir Hassan had to speak to the union leaders where he went on following up with the tabs of what's happening around the strike. Please take a listen.
Hopes of an immediate resolution shade after a closed-door meeting between the Joint Union Action Committee and officials of the Federal Capital Territory Administration ended without a breakthrough. The workers had embarked on the strike over unresolved welfare issues, including conditions of service and other outstanding entitlements. While both sides engaged in discussions, union leaders say their concerns were not adequately addressed. Speaking after the meeting, the Vice President of the Joint Union Action Committee said consultations will continue, but stressed that the strike remains in force until workers' demands are fully met.
The reason is that the strike continues. There is no headway. If we can achieve what we want, we'll call off. If not so, we are going on, and by the grace of God, I know God will give us the energy to sustain this strike. So many. We have issue of promotion, our wage award, issue of promotion, pension, NHIS, and so many other things. So many. We have up to 22. Yeah, I've already given them, and they are not upcoming. So many guys. We ask them to at least, even if it is 50% of what we have asked for, if they can do it, so they will call off the strike.
The FCTA has faced a shutdown as the Joint Union Action Committee of the FCTA embark on a strike over unmet demands. And after an emergency meeting with the FCTA officials, the union said strike continues despite no resolutions were made, but promised to call off strike if demands are met. I am Kabir Hassan, reporting for Global TV News.
Well, that was Kabir there, where he kept tabs with what's happening around the FCTA. Well, let's tell you that this strike comes amid rising economic pressure, fuel subsidy fallout, and renewed expectation from the FCTA administration under Minister Nyesom Wike, who has promised reforms and infrastructural renewal. But to help me unpack these issues, I'm joined in the studio by the president of the Joint Union Action Congress, FCT, Comrade Rifkatu Lota. It's good to have you join me on the program, ma'am.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here.
Okay, so this is a whole lot happening for the first, like call it for the first time, which I'm actually seeing this play out very first time, because I've covered the FCTA for past the years, and I've had ministers coming back and forth. I have not seen the FCTA staff come out so strong and speak in their voices to say welfare is a challenge. These are issues that don't need to come out in the front runner. So let's look at it from your perspective as the union people pushing for this. What are basically the strong focal points or the fundamental issues that are your grievances towards this?
Thank you very much. I've just gone around a lot of media houses, and so it's no news. Our serious issues are, we mentioned, tenure elongation. We all know that once you're 35 years, 60 years in service, or 8 years in the directorate cadre, it's statutory that you go. And our minister, Barrister Nyesom Wike, His Excellency, just if he likes you, he decides to keep you in office. And you know, if another person does not go, another person cannot climb. And so we are not pleased with that. You know, it began like, okay, it's a test run of the newly of our new baby civil service commission that was inaugurated in March 2024. And so we thought he was using such mechanism to stabilize the commission. But after the commission is being stabilized, it's going on and on. It's going on and on. So if a director comes to the position of being a director and he does not go, how does the assistant become a director? How does the DD become a director? The assistant becomes DD, the chief becomes assistant director. So it's just, you know, you just press us down and there's no movement. And so we spoke to management on, we think this is not right. We thought it was being used to stabilize the commission and all. But now that the commission is stabilized and things are going on, it's just normal. And since then, so many directors have existed, so many DDs have existed, ADs. So why pinpointing on this small few ones? So we, in our own analysis, we just feel if you're a favorite to the minister or you have one or two voices talking to him about you, we don't know if it's about functionality, but he keeps them. But I dare to say that all FCTA workers, for you to rise to that level, you must be very, very competent. And so it's a thing of concern, and we approach them. But no headway, it continues. Even right on this strike, a director is supposed to exit, I think, on the 24th. But like 3-4 days ago, he has given the person an appointment because he didn't want him to go. But for the agitation, he has to go, and so he's giving him another appointment.
Wow. This is a whole lot to unpack. I see that, like you mentioned, you've made your complaints to the authorities. You've said this is not fair because, of course, in the career part of life, one has to go through the rights and the cadres and get to the right point. Of course, there needs to be growth, and that has been one major concern. That's one of the major things. But like I said, I've been around the FCTA, and I understand. I get to see where directors and deputy directors grow through the cadre, and then it's also the joy of service, where you know, in the career part, we talked behind the scene. how I've walked through my path as well.
Yeah.
So I'm asking, despite the conversations you've had with the authorities, at what points did the joint union agree that this should get to indefinite strike as the only option?
You know, it is not the only point. There are other issues. We all know of the contributory pension scheme, that an employee, certain percentage of his basic is being taken to keep for his retirement, and also the government does its part. And since May, I think the contributory pension scheme stopped remittances in the FCTA since March. So our monies have not been taken to our pension administrators from June, July, August, September, October, November, December, now January. And we've been talking, what is happening? Is there a new law saying this money be kept? Is there any hindrance that our money shouldn't go? You know, they will tell us this tomorrow, tell us that tomorrow. In all honesty, the minister doesn't work on our pension directly. We do, but if we don't know what happened when it got to the top, that the pensions were not remitted, and we talked to them. There's a need. Some people have retired even in this January. Some retired in December, and then they will now start struggling with how do we do our pension and all. And we say, please take our pension to our PFAs. And it's not done until it is during this strike that they took for 1 month, for the month of June. What happens to if you're taking, why not take all? You collected them, so what happens to them? And so if you have open window for remittance, please remit the whole money.
Okay, so I see that this has actually affected a whole lot, looking at the explanation you've put out in place. Because like I said, this strike is coming amid economic issues, the first subsidy. Of course, it has actually affected cost of living. Because I can imagine as a civil servant where you're walking around and then you don't get satisfaction or the needed welfare to carry on the job you're supposed to do, to bring up the policies or help the authorities put out implementation of the workload. So how do you navigate through all of this? There's trust deficits with the FCT workers. So how is this going to play out? Because I see the agitation has really gone out and is a stronghold, and workers are not letting down their oars.
Yeah, now, like you said, it's never happened in the history of the FCTA that staff down to. This is the first time. And as an employee, you're also not happy not doing your duty. But still again, no employee wants to be shortchanged. You wake up today, you're faced with we're in a digital era, you're faced with different things happening. You ask the management, please can you send us on relevant trainings concerning our field? I mean, so I can stand and talk to you, so I can stand and talk in the place with my peers when it comes to, you know, you wake up to everyday things changing and new. The FCTA have stopped training us since 2023. No staff. I don't know if they select and send, but generally, there's no training for the FCTA staff. There is high victimization. The public servants have rules of engagement where you go wrong, this is a punishment, a committee is set, it's looked into, both people state their case and all. We are now being faced with the challenge of intimidation of staff, that the staff will not even do something wrong, but maybe err in something, and then the director will call police, come and take them and go and lock them up. Yep, it happened like 3 weeks ago. An elderly person that is supposed to actually retire in this January, or in this first quarter, was taken to police station, old man, and he was released after like 4 to 6 hours. The other person was kept for 3 days in the police station. And it happened sometime last year, I think 2025 early. A director, an assistant director was victimized, was harassed in this way, and we went and spoke. We wrote a letter to that effect, looked into this. The union cannot carry cane and enter and beat up a director.
Of course.
And so the director has a superior that should be called to order. And if this superior does not call to order, and the director keeps getting wings and continues this attitude, because this one that happened is in January that he took. Yes. So how do we get our principal to actually know we are pained in certain ways when he does not hear us even when we write through papers to ask, what is it? Is this true?
Wow.
And so it continues. And the people that feel they have his favor continue to treat us the way we don't like.
So
and I felt
I'm looking at this in terms of the labor law, because victimization is one serious accusation that is not in line with the labor law.
Very well.
So
it's also not in line with the civil service
rule as well. So I'm thinking in my head right now, how did it get to this point where victimization is now playing out in the place of work space? Because this is to have that free rule. Yes, like you said, there are penalties, there are committees which are set up to guide through workers, even in other workplaces, apart from the civil service, even the private sector, there are committees set up, there are disciplinary measures meant in place, but intimidation is one.
So that is that's also one of our cries. I also want to talk about our National Housing Fund. That has been ongoing. Even the former minister inaugurated a committee to look into it. You know, certain people jeopardize certain actions in every area. And when we talk about it, it's not that we're saying the minister should come down, but he has the authority. Our welfare should be part of his concern.
Exactly.
And if this is happening, and down the road when I retire, my National Housing Fund I've contributed since I entered, and I'm 35 years in service and living, and I'm not able to access it, it should be a thing of worry. It's also just like the pension. Those ones are for housing. The National Housing Scheme funds are for housing. The monies go to Federal Mortgage Bank. The FCTA staff cannot benefit in a lot of this lately because there's problem with it, and we on our own cannot unravel the problem. Even if we can, a higher authority has to talk to the people that are making this not to work so that it will work. We've been back and front, so many issues going on, my sister.
So I like the fact that we've talked about the higher authority and the role of the governance, but let's focus our attention to the governance and the responsibility and the political accountability that plays out in all of this, because you have a minister, and of course he comes in as a political appointee and who supersedes the affairs of the civil service in the FCTA. So the FCTA minister, Barrister Nyesom Wike, has been very vocal about reform and discipline and in governance. Basically, he talks about all of this, and we've seen that play out in his work role where he does a lot of work play out in the FCT. But critics, however, still say that the strike exposes a disconnect between policy rhetorics and workers' welfare, which is what you just explained. So someone who comes into the FCT and sees the beautiful thing happening in the FCT, and then coming home now, right, to hear this whole issue around welfare, which is supposed to be a #1 priority of a person in authority in terms of his workers. So how has this been? How has JOAC engaged directly with the minister? Because you've written several, like you said, in terms of the issue that has to do with the victimization and all, but have you met him as part of the union to sit down in dialogue?
Since the minister came, right from the day he came, everybody gathered to welcome him. And because of the mammoth crowd that came out to welcome the minister, not everybody could go into the small place that were prepared to receive him.
Office space.
I'm talking of the conference room now. That was where he went to and was received and had a media coverage. The minister had just arrived after the swearing in. And in the wisdom of the people of the administration then, involved the union, had a seat for the union, because they were saying this is director this is director this, and this is the union. Why was that done? Because the union, the representative of the staff is a critical stakeholder, because staff are critical stakeholders in a workplace, and so they recognized that. And so we're on the table, he was seated, everybody was applauding, we're all happy, and we thought that was the beginning of a new era for the whole of the FCTA and the FCTA staff. But that was the closest we've been.
Are you serious?
From then till today. And so each time we meet with management and they say they are talking at the instance of Mr. Minister, we take it with a pinch of salt, because we know that if our issues are presented to him the way they should, we know him. He will handle them. And so we feel there is a communication gap, and we feel there is a misrepresentation. And so we refuse to now take the management that come to talk to us, because they will tell us this and the next day another thing is happening being done by the minister, which means our issues are really not represented to him the way it should be, because knowing who he is, he will take it into consideration.
Okay, so I see right now where you've given us an understanding to the fact that this communication gap is also one major concern that has brought in this strike to this particular standpoint. So let's look with consultations right now, because of course there should be dialogue in the means of this striking action or this action in place. With consultation expected to continue, what options are left on the table to resolve this impasse, and how long can essential services in the FCT withstand this particular prolonged strike? Because you've not given a time frame to when you intend to halt on this.
You know, we were surprised that it's getting this long.
Okay.
Because we expect that we held a meeting with them on the Monday, the very day we began the strike, on the 19th of January. We held a meeting. If you say a management of a place, I don't think it is 2-3 people that are representatives of the management. For all these engagements, in October last year, when we talked about we don't want this elongation, there were about 4 people that attended to us that were representing the management. Now, when we when the dialogue continued, the number shrunk to 2 people.
Are you serious?
So we've always been talking with our head of service and the SA administration to the minister.
Okay.
So our head of service is our staff. She's custodian of staff, and we are good with her. But she's the only management. Once in a while, the director of security comes in to talk to us about being lawful and all. And if you can see, we've really conducted ourselves in a way. Then I want to draw your attention to one fact. You can see the stay-at-home thing is absolute.
Yes.
Nobody came, even the people that said they don't want to be a part of it didn't even come to work to tell you that it is not the pain of the union, that the union is only actually the voice of the people that are pained with so many things that are happening in the system. We just had our CBT exam, even though they came up to say that we did not have the right position.
Okay.
You know, and we see management, even on their part, not working in synergy.
True.
And it's affecting us, because when we get information from here, the information is not on this part of management. And if you are saying we do not have the right information about our promotion, you come out and tell us exactly the state of that promotion.
Okay.
And what we're agitating about. So many issues entangling here and there. And we want to get it once and for all.
Okay,
we want them to actually talk to us, get us to a point that we agree with one another. If I, as a union, please let the punishment be meted to me.
Okay.
Even though we can't punish them, but let's reach a compromise and let's have mutual understanding and respect. I have an obligation; they have a responsibility.
So I see that from where you have the display of the workers on one of these occasions where we see the locking up of the gates. And then people just moving and wearing your cap and displaying their grievances and saying, this is how we want this to play out. It cannot be this for too long. Like this is, like I said, the place is just dry. Just the security operatives ensuring there's no break of law and order, and everybody's heading to what this should be. And so from what you've said and what the engagements you've gotten, the FCTA administrations has said they met 10 out of the 14 demands, which has remained just 4 actively to be addressed. And on what basis then is the strike still continuing? Is it that drag is not shifting in the
I just expected you to ask, is the 10 really 10 that has been?
I was getting to that. Because if you're not shifting grounds, it means something is holding back. Because when you say you've met 10 out of the 14 demands that was dished out by JOAC, of course. So why would they still stand and say it's not enough?
My dear sister, if we had not gone on this strike action for as long as this minister has been on ground, why will 10 of our agitation be met and we're still on strike? The SA Media and Communication, Mr. Larry, that dished out that information in various media houses.
Yes.
We have never met. He has not even come out of concern to, oh, my people. We know he works for the minister.
Yes.
But if he works for the minister, he should be able to talk to us too.
Yes.
In fact, I saw in some of the his papers.
Papers?
Yeah, papers. Figures of promotion areas prepared to pay. I am not aware.
Okay.
Staff are not aware. We agitated. You did not tell us. Oh, this is on the bond. This is what is. Yes. No, this is what is on for the offer.
Oh, great.
And then we're seeing it on media houses. How?
Okay, so
how?
That means there was not
because if I agitate and say, I'm talking about promotion areas, you should be able to tell me, oh, we have this figure. And so if you do not tell me, and you go and after 2 or 3 days of our action, and you bring it on social media, I want to believe, yes, the agitation has yielded results, and I'm glad if it truly, if it's good. He even said that it was prepared in December. We're not aware, and we've been engaging, and nobody said it. And so we're just seeing it on online and other means of, you know, so I don't know. But it's a good thing if it happens, so, but I want the world to know we were not told, we were not, nothing was done about that, and that is why it's a point of agitation.
Okay, so Sam, I have a copy of the press statement which was actually given out to the media space. So I'm just for backgrounds and all that. There are issues of the overseeing directors, which you mentioned. They say he has been reasonably addressed by the conduct of the 2023 promotion for eligible deputy directors, while the release of the just concluded 2024 staff promotion by the FCT Civil Service Commission will conclusively address the matter.
Now, in the 2023 examinations that were conducted, even though they had it in August 2025, born out of our protests also.
Okay.
The 2023, in all honesty, was for Directorate Cadre.
Okay.
But even at then, there were overseeing directors before the exam. Now the directors that wrote those exams and passed were posted. There's no director that wrote that exam and there's vacancy for him that was not posted. Their posting is not hanging.
Okay.
Why then in January I'm still having overseeing directors? Do you understand? I don't know if you get it. So if you said the 2023 promotions took care of it, why are we still having a few of them hanging?
Okay, so that's one side of the conversation, and then this is where the statement also talks about the resident electoral, that's the resident doctors. He said the Association of Resident Doctors, Federal Capital Territory, even wrote to the minister, President Yesomika, appreciating him for his exemplary leadership and commitment to the welfare of healthcare workers, as demonstrated by the payment of the long-standing 13 months hazard allowance arrears, as well as the payment of 1 month's wage award. So these are part of the things he's saying, that Larry is saying that have been met. But from your perspective, where does DRAG think responsibility lies? The minister, the FCTA bureaucracy, or the federal government itself in all of this, despite the fact that some of these things they've pointed out are the things they've met?
Thank you very much. When did they pay the 13 months hazard allowance?
Okay.
And when did they pay the 1 month wage award? It was when we began this agitation.
Amazing.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
When we began this, our wage award is for 5 months.
Okay.
And they paid 1 month. The 13 months has been lingering for so long. And so they decide to pay when we say we are going on strike. So it is this agitation that has given birth to this.
So if there was no agitation,
we don't know when they will move. And even at that, we still have 4 months is a lot now to owe people. I am agitating for 5 months. You give me 1 month.
1 month.
Without calling even me to say, okay, see, we're going to pay 1 month. We just saw alerts.
So apparently, I'm going to throw this to you right now.
And so if the resident, let me talk about resident doctors. If the resident doctors call to appreciate, I know that in the totality of the FCTA workforce, this is the first time we are agitating.
I mentioned that in the conversation.
I can't count how many times the hospitals have been shut.
Yeah.
And so if all their demands are met, good for them. Our own we just began now with 1 month of wage award.
Okay.
So if they did that, of course, it's good. If their agitations have been met, ours
needs to be met as well.
Yes, yes.
So a lot of concerns will be raised or questions will be asked towards this direction, since yours is just 1 month has been met. Is the crisis being politicized? That's one question people ask.
No. I don't need anybody to tell me that my colleagues shouldn't be handled by policemen. I don't need anybody to tell me that my retirement benefits should not be paid to me. I don't need anybody to tell me that my housing, who is enjoying house rent in Abuja, that if I have the opportunity, I shouldn't utilize it. I don't need anybody to tell me that if I write an exam and there are abnormalities, it shouldn't be corrected. For God's sake, we have heads, we are human beings. We are not done as workers of FCTA. It's not everybody that will be at the top at the same time, but for God's sake, even from below, we have heads. So it's not politically influenced.
Okay, so I like the fact that you've just cleared that of the way, and then so a lot of questions are still going to be asked around beyond government offices. Ordinary Abuja residents are bearing the brunt of the strike. I know this whole thing is around the welfare, and to see that you as a worker who's given the service out there should be taken care of, should be given the benefit of doubt that you need the welfare, you need all of this. Just like you mentioned, the health workers have gotten theirs, but yours is still
not even fully.
Not fully. Okay, that's it. But so for the residents who need the services, they're bearing the brunt of it. How does drag balance workers' right with public inconvenience? Just in the part of your work?
DRAC has been very sensitive to certain very essential duties that we manned. If you notice, water is still flowing in the tap, so...
Not everywhere.
No, but even before our strike, was it flowing everywhere? And before our strike, when waters was not flowing, was it the responsibility of the staff?
No.
So you see, there are a lot to be talked about.
Yes, I get
and those are some of the things we're talking about. Sometimes the tools for this work are not there. Let's not... See, there's a lot.
The nitty-gritty of these things, because that's one of the reasons you're here. Let's talk about this, because the residents who are bearing the brunt, the public space, who don't understand, some will be saying, are they the only ones? I'm taking, for instance, from the ordinary man. So you need to guide the audience.
I want you to also know that even before we began, the GUS joint workers of the health have down-tooled like 2 months, above 2 months. They just called off like 2 days ago.
Yes, they just did that.
It was in the FCTA. It was in the FCTA.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Do you understand?
Yes.
And so we are sensible. You can see that we didn't go to shut down schools.
I was going to throw that to you.
Do you understand? So we are sensible. We're careful.
Okay.
There are certain places. We didn't go to shut the cemeteries. So we're very sensitive. Well, I don't expect that somebody will lose a loved one and go to bury and then have shut down the place. We're sensible.
Okay.
Because our work is to make the city better.
Okay.
But if you see, even before now, there was a point that the FCT streets, you can't pass. The roads are done, but everywhere was filthy.
Yeah.
We were at work, but those things were there.
Yes, around the waste management.
Good. So it's resident with us, and we're not happy that a lot of things are not happening. So those are some of our agitations that I don't want to talk about it on TV. It is with us and management on a round table.
Okay, so I like the fact that you've done that, so the public perception of the labor union is actually cleared off, that this is actually...
No, it's not to punish the residents. We are working for them.
Okay.
And we just want better services also.
Okay, amazing, because like I said, when one comes into the FCT, the beautiful road network and the lightning, which is actually playing out right now, is actually showing that. So if workers are now saying these services are not given to us, implementation will become a problem in all these areas of services, like we've mentioned, and I'm glad that you have your focus on that. But let's focus our attention to solutions and or strategies that can play out. Nigerians are asking a simple question: what will it take to suspend the strike? In just one straight way out of this.
Negotiation. From day one, we've been open to meaningful dialogue and negotiation.
Okay.
We did not want to go around doing the same thing, and we're not getting results. And so we just want meaningful dialogue. Call us to a round table meaningfully. But I think we've gone beyond that, because so far we've been dragged to court.
Okay, so, I know that part. Conditions for calling of the strike is what you've said. The timeline, expectations is what one actually doesn't get to say, or because right now you've dragged to court. I don't want to talk about judiciary, but will JAG accept a phased implementation? Because like we mentioned in the course of our conversation, 14, you have 10.
It's not 14, no, it's 22. We don't know where Larry got that from.
Okay. I think that needs to be out there. So
it's
yes,
no, you see, we wrote letters in our bid to try to negotiate. They told us come with 10 priority lists.
Oh, I see.
And we gave them those 10 priority lists. And that is the one they gave him.
Oh.
Because he has
that's
never
the
been in.
priority list.
Yes.
So that's
And but because he is not in it,
I see.
he doesn't understand. Our list is up to 22 self. Do you understand? And most of them, it's not about just money.
No.
It's not about pay us wage award. What is 35,000 naira wage award that they have given the 1 month? Do you understand? But it's about, even me, I want job satisfaction, that I'm going to office and I'm doing my work, nothing hinders me. So there are so many little things, like I said,
to come up.
Yeah.
So the role of dialogue that you've mentioned and the third-party mediation has been one area that has been a concern to JOAC, that's the Joint Union, because like you said in your discussion so far, you said that you've not had the opportunity to sit with the minister. It's not been a direct. This is a third-party mediation coming out to play for you. So how do you move past this? Because right now there's a court injunction here.
We've seen a stronger father dragging his weak children to court. We'll go. They've called us. We'll go. Okay. We'll go to court. But all I want to say here is I know that the FCTA workers are resolute. I've never seen such level of compliance in all honesty anywhere. That no single person, I dare to say, even if the doors are front open, only they will come to do their work. But then our strike will almost be ineffective if we allow them to be carrying out their contract works and everything. But I dare to say that even if the doors are flung open, staff won't come in because we are all pained. And since they've thought this way, they've taken us to the slaughterhouse. We're going.
The slaughterhouse.
Yeah. When I am mightier than you, and I'm dragging you to where I don't have a lawyer, I don't have a sons, I don't have money to to pick a lawyer. So we're going. Let's see how it plays out. But we're resolute. Our demands will be met, and then we come back to work. And I use this opportunity to encourage staff. Please don't give up. We're going somewhere.
I like that coming from the union to see that, because in all of this, like we always put out, is the fact that workforce engagement and also welfare packages where you work should, like the word always goes out, it says your work your workshop is your shop, the house where you eat. Workshop.
Your workshop is your workshop.
It's a workshop where you eat. So that should be a place of serene atmosphere. I always talk about the issue of psychology. If you have a smooth environment, so psychology plays out for you, it should be an edge for the worker, because you see seamless flow of work and implementation, services carried here and there, and everybody will be fine. Well, the FCT workers' strike is more than a labor dispute. It's a test of leadership, negotiation, and governance in Nigeria's capital city. That's it. I want to say a very big thank you to you for being an amazing guest.
Thank you very much.
This, making our viewers have a clearer picture of what you're agitating for, and that is not just about a politicized thing. You have your reasons, and this is the first time it's coming out to play. So we hope this is the first and the last. If leadership role, if implementation, if good governance, if welfare is prioritized across the different agencies under the FCT workforce, and then we get to see, because you're not just sitting is a personal thing. You've worked. You're looking at your housing. You're looking at your pension and career growth.
Yes, career growth. We're looking at dignity at work.
At workspace. Intimidation was one thing that got to me, and I'm like, really, is this happening in the FCT?
In some offices, you're not allowed to use phones. As bad as that. We had to negotiate. Okay, can the staff use torchlight phones, please?
Okay, that got to me. Well, that's it. Well, there's a whole lot happening. You've heard from the union. We've had an amazing conversation, and this helps stakeholders find a common ground in the interest of workers and residents alike. Thank you so much, Comrade Rifkatu, for sharing your insight with us. We look forward to engagement. We look forward to what the end of this particular strike would be like. Hopefully, we see smiles on the face of FCT workers going forward. It's still Global Morning, an amazing conversation so far. I told you it wasn't a day to miss out on what we have for you. Please stay with us. Up next, other itinerary on the program. Don't go anywhere.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
New Imo is on the rise. In the beating heart of Owerri, business never sleeps. From sunrise to sundown, the wheels keep turning. And behind the scenes, vision meets action. Governor Hope Uzodinma's leadership has left the pages of manifestos to become real actions and achievements. Transformations that piece by piece feels like a miracle. But progress needs peace to thrive. And in Imo, we are not leaving it to chance. From land to sky to river deep, guardians are always watching, protecting dreams and opportunities. If you go to the quiet shore of Orashi Power, you will see the awakening of a hydropower roaring to electrify and energize a blossoming economy. The change is visible. The heartland of the East is under construction as new roads are threading together once forgotten places. Industry is humming again and communities are alive. At the center of it all, a digital revolution is rising. A new ministry with a new mission. Not just cables and codes, but capacity. 500,000 young minds trained each year to build a digital future. And as Orashi Power goes up, so does Imo, lifting with it the hopes of a hard-working people. A new Imo is on the rise.
Glad to have you join us. It's been wet across the southwest over the past few days, and we expect this to change as dry winds are gradually pushing southward. And this will help suppress rainfall, keeping most areas dry, though conditions are expected to remain hazy. And for aviation operators, the coming days may bring significant visibility reduction due to expected thick dust haze, particularly across the northern parts of the country. Flight operators are strongly advised to consult the NIMET e-flight folder to support effective planning and safe operation. Looking ahead to Saturday, no major weather activity is expected, as dry, sunny and hazy conditions will prevail across the north down to the southwestern region. However, the southeast may experience patches of cloud with isolated thunderstorms possible over parts of Calabar in Cross River State. And that's the latest weather outlook. I'm Safia Senginusa. Thank you for watching.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
Well, it's an amazing discussion here on Global Morning, and Saturday we thought it was a perfect time for you to relax and stay glued to your screen. And we're back here. Mukhtar is here.
Yes, we're back after such amazing conversations,
Yes,
which
it
were
was.
very timely, and also very important with the union and the workers' strike.
And of course, the education sector, which was part of also the conversation we had on the workers as well. Although they were sensitive enough to say they don't want
the education
sector to be also closed down, because of course children need to go to school.
Certainly.
And good enough, the workers have got a certain percentage of their own. But with what the education experts gave us on that, there's a need to hammer on education being the bedrock to any child or any person who stands tall in this space.
And of course, beyond the child, even the country itself, the country's future and survival lies majorly on education, and we can't afford to treat that sector with levity if we intend to grow as a nation, Nigeria.
I'm telling you. So, well, our audience, we hope you had an amazing one with us. Don't forget that it's Global Morning on Global Television. We always bring you the exciting and well-informed information going around with follow-up of details, developing stories, which is something we always want. The human angle, of course, which we talked about the issue of insecurity along the papers that the country needs to pay attention to the issue of also negotiating with terrorists, which is not the way to go.
Honestly, I've never supported that. I don't think I ever will.
Okay, it's time for Mukhtar and I to get to that party we had planned with this and co.
It's clear to see that there's something cooking.
There's something.
But we'll give you highlights.
Just behind the scene, Destiny, Victor, and Said, we're all set up for it. Don't worry, we'll give you a snippet into that, and you'll find out about that. It's an amazing one. Thank you for being a part of the program. I am Anita Patrick.
And I am Mukhtar Kasim. Have a lovely day ahead.
Have you.